заполнил формы регистрационные участников форума. Просьба их заполнить, они в зале имеются. У наших помощников.
Сергей Юрьевич с нами, так что продолжим нашу работу.
Let's go on. So let's try to talk. So Ukraine is a sensitive subject, and we know that, and let's not go back to it. But let's talk about the prospects of Eurasian Union potential, doability. Is it doable or not? And you see, my personal opinion that there's a danger that today the economically we are economically attractive, but only in the conditions of serious turbulence. So if we start to grow, we can part our ways again, and then we can come back. So there's only one formula in 1992, and no one canceled this formula that was formed in 1992. Academician Nikipenkov put it together. So the relationship, or the relation, or the attitude, or the former countries of the USSR to Russia boils down to only one formula, one idea. So to get as much as possible from Russia, economic obligations and minimum political obligations. That's the attitude of the CIS countries to Russia. And I think that so to get from Russia economically as much as possible and politically nothing. And so then, so it's the first form of economic integration. This is super national body. So this customs union and the new economic zone. So he is one of the, let's put it this way, very important persons in post-Soviet space. Because post-Soviet space, we all need to get used to the idea of abandoning our sovereignty. If we want to really have a fully fledged customs union, we need to abandon our sovereignty. And we hate to do that. So how does this baby that was born in labor and terrible labor, and so how we would make this baby, nurse the baby and grow baby and make him into a nice adult. So then the hurdles on the way of integration, no, we go back to Ukraine again. So the hurdles on the way, so integration, what is in the way between Russia and Ukraine in the era of integration, okay? No, Mike, please get into the mic. That's exactly, everyone votes for that. But it does mean that he is not ready to steal from you immediately, although he is your neighbor. So he'll be happy to. But for this we need to change our own behavior. And they don't want to change their own behavior, so they want to go to Europe with their own set of values. And so, no, that's the tradition, yeah? So we need to fight these corrupt traditions and theft. And another issue I would like to raise. So to a wonderful speaker, one more question. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me? It's not so much a question, since so we're going to move over to another subject and depart from Ukraine. To follow up, Mr. Agranovsky, I would like to say a couple of words to the fact what needs to be done, what to do. I represent Ukrainian Choice movement organized by Medvedchuk. And from this viewpoint, so we have a certain program. If you're interested, I can talk about it. So if you want to sign up and talk, if you want to, yeah, please, no problem. Oksana, you remember, if you live in Ukraine, so you can watch television for 2 months and you will not see any news about Kazakhstan, Russia, so unless there's huge event related to Putin. No news, no coverage. How, under the conditions, can determine what they want? Because this subject is not there. So they don't even talk about Russia, Belarus, or Kazakhstan. In our So at our village, so we have guys who came from Ukraine. So they were explaining about the Yushchenko elections, and they're talking that the results were falsified. So any attempt to vote not for Yushchenko was administratively squashed and persecuted. And it was not 90-10 in favor of Yushchenko, it was 55-60 in favor of Yushchenko. It's not a secret. So these two guys from Ukraine are working in our village in Russia. And it's in this sense, so until there is an open border between Ukraine and Russia, there will be no problems, because as once the population, they say, are you ready? They ask for the European integration, the Ukrainian nation. They say no. They say no. If you start asking and stand firmly on the ground. So we have 20 minutes left and 7 speakers. I would like to ask you to come to the lectern and speak the most important points. Professor Kupikov, please. 3-4 minutes. Thank you. Effectively, the discussion is wonderful, lots of aspects, and very interesting. Maybe it makes no sense to make a coherent, fundamental presentation to you of my views concerning the integration problem, because everyone is getting tired. And I would like to briefly say, to react to some comments, to respond to some comments. That would be the best way to proceed. So then there's a feeling that we forgot one very important pivotal point in the discussion, and we did not adopt it by default. We are discussing the issues related to the many year work in the legislation, groundwork, tariff groundwork, and other things, regulatory frameworks have been working for many decades. So the judge was speaking to that extent, so she made a wonderful presentation, but I do not agree with some points where someone said that the international body like WTO and International Monetary Fund, because I'm shocked, because that's what I want to call, why are we doing all this? What's the point? So there are 2 different types of integration. It looks like we're trying to resolve technical issues, and so there are, for example, with violence, without violence, enforcing, not enforcing. For whom we're doing? What's the purpose? What right do we have to use this to enforce or to force down? To apply pressure on the states to take this integration issue, because there are different associations, ministries, agencies that protect the interests, but the integration is different. It's a qualitatively different notion. Integration. We need to take it one step higher. We need to put the plank higher, and for the majority of us, it goes outside the brackets of economic processes. Integration is or reintegration and of the world. This is our home, and so that we've been living for so many centuries, so I have no chance to argue it in a logical way for absence of time, because this world has lots of conflicts embedded in it, that we have collective interest protectionist, collective interest traditions, we go back, tribes, traditions, everything, the unified civilized code, the unified space, going back in history, so the logical economy and development of history, and all this is there. Then we have a very deep local market. That's good. But at the base we have the people. We have human beings, the people. the people's, and actually, so the European model certainly is very attractive. So this magnet, why they go there? Because they have a coherent, simple, clear-cut project. So that's why people want to go to the West, because they like the European Union, because European or Ukraine, also Eurasian or East integration with East, integration with the West. Why? Because it's the two sets of values fight. And so maybe it's high time not to stop talking about technical issues on the technical plane. So I mean, let's abandon these trifles. And so let's stop thinking, so what kind of bolts and nuts and screws are put into this building. So maybe we'll build a building that nobody needs, that the peoples of Russia will not need. So then let's talk openly what kind of model of future we are foreseeing and what we are trying to build. Something Hazin was saying, let's go back to the values. This is the central issue, the pivotal. So the Ukrainian metallurgists want to sell pipes. So what kind of metallurgists? The workers ask you to sell pipes to Russia? No, this is the industrial elite asked. So it looks like that the industrial union is built by the industrial elite for the sake of industrial elite, and so they have forgotten about the peoples, about the nations. And so this integration goes on the basis of our common values that we share, and this is the key issue. Common. Understand? My time is up. I understand. Thank you.
Rada, Ukrainian Rada.
Олег, 3,5 минуты вам.
Assembly.
Not exactly the third assembly. So why Rada? Because it's not the Duma, it is Rada. So Rada, yeah, is happy in Russian. So, but in fact, it's the Duma. I know I'm going to say, because in the end they will not let me say it. I would like to thank the participants and the speakers. Wonderful presentations. I enjoyed immensely the comments and the speeches and everything. So I believe that there is much to take away. And I would like to start with a person whose economic articles are extremely appealing for me, Mihail Hazin. I believe that, unfortunately, speaking about civilized choice, civilized options, we cannot say that our morals are higher than the law. Very often, unfortunately, there is no morals, neither morals nor law. I don't know about you in Russia, but we have neither very often. But second, so no morality, no law. And Oksana has left, so speaking about the polls, surveys, and customs unions, Vladimir was very good in saying, speaking about the sociological survey, we were polling people about the pre-election strategy. So most of the people, the lion's share of the people, if you just ask them, are for the customs union, advocate the customs union. Indeed, it will not influence much because they determine the route for development. It's the elite who sets the path, and the elite is those who are the journalists who have to speak only Ukrainian, so therefore only Western Europe. That's Western Ukraine community, expert community that exists on grants and have a certain position, predetermined position, and our oligarchs. Unfortunately, many of our colleagues made their choice when they were buying real estate in other countries, when their children and families reside or study in other countries as well, in RSA, in Switzerland, LC, and so on. Virtually everybody sends their families away. Do you think they made their choice or not when they send their children to study abroad? I'm sure, yes, they made their choice. And I believe that only a very strong crisis may reverse the situation, and Ukraine is on the brink of this crisis, in fact. And I have some numbers that I selected to depict our economic facilities. In the budget that we have in the parliament, the budget is approximately 400,000 hryvnias, and out of them 100,000 is borrowings. Out of them 70 billion, 400 billion, 100 billion, and 70 is the domestic borrowing. Very long ago, people stopped loans to the government without a link to the interest rate, to the currency rate. And today, the interest rate on the loans start at 25% per year. And of course, it is detrimental for real economy. And the deposit and loans rates are approximately the same in hryvnias. Why? Because, in fact, only the non-performing loans are credited. They just double credit them, and they collect deposit because they expect inflation and dollar fluctuations. Speaking to the Ministry of Finance, I hear from them that they hope to keep the situation in control. But some banks are different. VTB, Sberbank, and other Russian banks also have similar interest rate. And this anticipation of crisis, of collapse, definitely is going to pressurize the market. And I'm deeply convinced that, unfortunately, the situation and attitude of Ukraine to the customs union, not the people but the elite, only can be done through a very strong crisis. As for myself and my family, I believe that there are few people who use this conviction that Europe is offering us, just like to Greece, just like to Spain and Italy, to be a peripheral country that's going to service Europe. And today our people are servicing, by the way, servicing Russia as well. Most of the labor migrants are in Russia, according to statistics. And the only opportunity for us to make our children, to raise them into engineers, constructors, scientists, is to create jointly with Russia a common economic space. Thank you. Thank you.
Региональная интеграция на евразийском пространстве. Хотя мы, я имею в виду тех, кто занимается в России, Казахстане, Беларуси, ну и в целом в СНГ, под евразийской интеграцией понимаем вполне определенный и четко выраженный в географии процесс создания таможенного союза, единого экономического пространства в перспективе Евразийского экономического союза России, Беларуси и Казахстана. Тем не менее, наш круглый стол посвящен, конечно, более широкому кругу вопросов. И в данном случае под евразийской интеграцией понимаются интеграционные процессы на всем нашем гигантском материке. Процессы сложные, противоречивые. И о них можно говорить, конечно, бесконечно. И в географическом аспекте, и в геополитическом, и в экономическом. Я ни в коей мере не предваряя ход нашей дискуссии, хотел бы просто предложить некоторые ключевые проблемы для обсуждения, которые, как мне кажется, имеют не только большое практическое значение, но и в теоретическом плане до конца не исследованы, и здесь много неопределенностей, много разных сценариев развития событий, и мы могли бы внести наш общий интеллектуальный вклад в прояснение некоторых весьма запутанных ситуаций и в интеграции, и в целом формировании торгово-экономических и валютно-финансовых отношений на евразийском материке. И именно такие наиболее... Да, Валерий Михайлович, если можно, проходите к нам в президиум. Мы такой академической компанией попробуем направлять нашу работу. О каких вопросах я хотел бы сказать, поделиться с вами мыслями для привлечения внимания к этим нерешенным проблемам.
Issue is not resolved. So let's talk about Eurasian economic integration within the framework of we've been walking from the standards of the customs union, so the united economic environment, and eventually, so we plan until 2015 to identify. So it's all the part of the timetable, and we are planning to apply the classical methods and for the legal framework for the creation of general so capital markets, services, labor market, all general, all together. So outside this standard set of economic integration, so there are lots of murky, uncertain zones. So what is the Eurasian Economic Union? How it's going to be designed? So even we have only some adumbration, so what it might look like in future. But considering the experience of the European Union, so we borrowed, and so then our integration horizons, maybe the union institutions, the formation of the our country's institutions, so antitrust service standardized for all, so the method control, oversight control, so this is super. So then that standardized sanitary customs service, maybe just we're going just to move into this direction, and so we'll be just creating new union institutions. So within the framework of the new customs union, so that's an intermediary situation. On the one hand, so we have we have in the second so writing of this. Bill, so we are trying just to, so actually the main laws are law abiding for all stakeholders, but now we are working on the coordination of the positions of the sites. We're developing the initiatives and processing the initiatives of different countries, part of the union. But then we're going just to initiate and develop these solutions, and that needs to be discussed because we need to maintain the interests of all stakeholders, because the parliamentary dimension is not yet developed, and so how we provide empower the authority, that was going just to govern and control the activities of the union. So that needs to be done, and then some other landmarks have been identified because we've been learning some negative experience from the European Union, and because we're not planning to introduce the monetary union like it was done in the European Union, but Euro Union, because it's a negative experience, we're not going to follow it. And we spoke to Nazarbayev, so the president of Kazakhstan, when he was talking about the creation of super national currency, but we are very apprehensive and we're not planning to follow through on that. How the financial and currency integration will occur, we still don't know. And so we're creating the unified economic environment for capital, for services, for trading, and that's what we're planning. But at the same time, so what we see that those who stand to gain in this economic environment will be the issuers of other currencies, which is dollar and euro, and we don't know who is going to conquer our economic area. If the European Bank, just pressing only one button, prints $1 trillion, that takes us 10 years of sales, export sales. And the very difficult work, and they just with the press of a button, so they print the same amount of money as we work very hard for so many years. So then, who determines the future economic development, and who forms the demand for the economic good? because we need to be very careful of what kind of currencies we use and to what extent we need to use foreign currencies. Then settlement in national currencies. There is another issue that is very acute, and we still a long way to go to address this issue, because the market is now between the three states, Kazakhstan, Belarus, and so the settlement is done through the foreign international systems, and which is very vulnerable. Because like Iran was just taken out of the system and through SWIFT because of the political pressure, and this is very dangerous. So how are we going to settle with Belarus if someone decides in the West to stop the system from settlement? And so that is why we need to fill in this economic environment with our own development mechanism, with our own settlement mechanisms. So that yet to be done, and that's why I plead with the experts to start thinking about this, because we're open to anyone who works in the area of economic integration of state institutions, and so we're still searching for the best ways to address this issue. A couple of words about the geography and our discussion. My introductory remark, I spoke about the problems that is our ongoing concern within the framework of the European community, European Union, but we understand very well that our integration is happening within the huge economic integration substances that are developing as well, and sometimes they're of questionable nature, and so anything wrong that happens abroad impacts us adversely, and similar things are occurring there as well. So then the idea of Putin just to create the zone of free trading from Lisbon to Vladivostok, and this slogan needs to be filled in with certain scenarios. So when we build a new trading relationship between different countries in the Eurasian, so we don't have a new partnership agreement with the European Union, which is our leading trading partner. So now it's not only Russia, but the customs union partners, so they need to standardize and to conform, to comply with the standards of relationship with the third parties, and so the partners' agreements with the European Union so need to be settled, and China in the east, and the European Union in the west. And this is very difficult. So from Lisbon to Vladivostok, freedom of trading is very difficult to organize. And so then within the framework of the customs union, we eventually created the zone of free trading within the framework of our customs union. So because Ukraine, for example, difficult situation, because on the one hand Ukraine trades with different countries, so they want to get a free trade status with European countries. At the same time, they want to be part of our union, and so this Ukraine wants to be part of both unions, trading unions in Russia and in the West. And so how can one country be in the middle? So we have never had a single instance that would testify to the fact that this system is viable. And then the EU makes us recollect a widely spread thesis by the IMF and the World Bank, so that only the countries close with the same level of economic development should integrate. And so many our opponents on the way of European integration, so they say that if you want to put together the customs union, which is 10 times different from the viewpoint of GDP per capita, then you will get more problems than positive synergetic effect. And I cannot agree with that, because the experience of our Eurasian integration in the Russian Empire, so the integration of the territories with different level of development, located at the different levels of industrialization, so they still got very good synergy effect. But with Greece, so there is certainly a collapse related to different level of technological, industrial development, and then the Greek economy cannot sustain the competition of the European Union. So which can be easily observed looking at the factors of economic development and what happens to the youth of Greece, the Greek youth, because there is no industry, there is nothing evolving. So what to do with those young people? And so our cultural and spiritual relationship that go back many centuries, and our attraction. So Greece is very close to us. So, and once the disintegration process occurs, if it occurs, so we can always ready to connect Greece to our integration process. And so the world is in flux. Everything changes in a matter of months, and we are ready to welcome Greece into our realm. And so we should not just close in our original scenarios of integration, but we should keep our mind open and be ready to cooperate and integrate and develop our relationship on this huge Eurasian continent. And I'm not on the list. And so please write me notes or ask questions. And anyone who wants to make a comment, so then there are some presentations, anyone who has texts, so you can provide text to the interpreters, so that the interpreters will be easier for them to work. And please don't take away these simultaneous interpretation devices. Leave them in the conference room, please. And so we'll make a coffee break. 6:30. We'll make a coffee break, and so we're working until 7. So we can keep this conference room until 7. Dear friends, Mr. Glaziev asked me to, and I'm pleasantly shocked at this wonderful interest that they are displaying to our subject. So we have 26 people signed up, and each of which has a presentation, but 27 even. And so now our young friend Mr. Dilagin is here. He has not signed up, but I'm sure that if he doesn't get a chance to speak, then the whole world will stop from functioning. And so do we have to give a chance to speak to all 27? Yeah, okay, but not all will want to speak. Okay, shall we just go down the list? How we do it? Look, because at the end of the day, that's a roundtable discussion. We need to be, and it provides for discussion, open interaction. And we need to give a chance to everyone to speak. And that is why I think that each speaker should speak for 7 minutes tops. And so then plus 3 minutes for questions. So 7, and the actual length of the presentation should not exceed 10 minutes. I mean that everyone is allotted 7 minutes, because I'm not a good guy, I'm a bad guy, because I'm going just to restrict if they start getting carried away, because everyone needs to have the time to have his or her say. And so then that's why we're going just to abuse our power to stop you from. Who do we start with? Mikhail Hazin. Do we need to introduce him, or Mikhail Hazin, famous Russian economist who is very important in the media, and the media governs the world, rules the world, as we know. So okay, we start. We know your time slot. What do you want I start with? I today coming back from the beach. I saw a wonderful picture. There's a little boy, very little, tiny boy, about half a year old, and next to him there is his papa. And so the boy started to clap his hands, and Papa started to clap his hands and sing as well. What is this? From the viewpoint, they started to sing and clap their hands. So from the viewpoint of a Russian guy, so this is a nice relationship between Papa and the boy. From the viewpoint of a liberal Western guy, This is the flagrant abuse of the parent and child legislation, for which so the boy should be taken into custody. Yeah, because the words of the song is horrible, because it's a violation of the law, the violation of rights of the child, because the song actually advocates the drinking of alcohol, although it's an old Russian song. And so advocating the young baby to drink alcohol is the violation of his rights, which is the reason to take him away from his parents. And this is something which tells us about what is a Eurasian environment, Eurasian area. Let me try to explain. Let me try to talk about it. That Glaziev spoke about that. And the thing is that so there are several approaches to public relations. First approach, yes, that there are some basic values which need to be observed, and if these basic values are flouted or brazenly violated, then he is not a good member of the society. Then there is another approach, so which says that the key is to observe the law. If he is a law-abiding citizen, then whatever he does wrong, violates anything else, he's still a worthy citizen of the society. So these are the two different approaches, and we see it very well now, and in the law that I spoke about. So the law about parent and child relationships. So this law was adopted in our country, followed by Western standards, so where the law is more important than morality. And it means that Ladushki Ladushki song that has been sung for many centuries by parents to the kids became a crime, because and with the principles of juvenile justice, so which was already adopted in the first reading, so nothing can stop the adoption of this law. So this parent needs to be denied his parental rights and taken into another institution, because bad meaning it goes against the law. And in other society, so if the parent slaps him on his backside, so which is not bad if he's trying just to bring him up in line of these values. So where is the priority? Because the Christian society, Muslim society are the societies where the key role is played by the values. And that is why the public attitude is based on morality, on the reflection of these values inside the man. And naturally, so no one observes these rules to exist, and more or less, so they need to be abided by. So in the normal society, in the Western society, the key element is the freedom. Is the freedom that means the right of everyone to select her own values. And even if your neighbor, you have a neighbor in the cottage, so which actually provokes, so it's talking for instance to remove the criminal liability for violation of the minors. You can't do anything about that because he has the right. And even if he corrupted your minor because he get a lot of money or the evidence was not properly collected, so he comes back in a day's time because he did not violate the law. It's his freedom of movement. In the traditional society, you can kill him, and the court will acquit you of this crime. And this is the main truth, that the Eurasian environment area is the territory where morality, from the viewpoint of its reflection on the biblical system of values, is more important than the law. And I think that a lot of blood will be spilled in our country because now they're trying to force upon us the Western system of values, so where the law takes precedence over morality. So that is why a person it's not his blame, it's not his fault. In Russia it won't work. So where there is a line in Europe between these two zones, it's a difficult issue between these two morality areas. People will determine for themselves. But I think that this Eurasian area is where the morality is more important than the law. And I think that in our follow-up discussion, so this assumption will be discussed on a far greater scale, because it's interesting to get your thinking on it. And then I have 2 minutes left. A few words about the self-organizational nature of this Eurasian environment. In the 18th century, so there, as a result of the value revolution of the 16th century, when the biblical system of values was destroyed, when the interest could not be charged by the banks, so they understood that the system doesn't work and you cannot live in this biased system of values. And then there appeared three areas, ideological values. First is conservatism, so going back to the biblical system of values. The second area, liberalism, so abandoning the system of values in general, so freedom. And then the red area is maintaining the interest rate, but turning it into some kind of a more adequate, more malleable, more mitigated, inserted into the so biblical system, so when you cannot appropriate the profits. So conservatism lost because it could not guarantee quick economic development. Liberalism, the red project failed as well at the end of the 20th century, and so now we see that the liberal economic model is losing its ground as well. It cannot exist anymore. And under the circumstances, we need to develop new models of economic development. It's impossible to think up a new economic model without any ideological foundation. Speaking, so why are we creating the wealth? So in the liberal model, everything is there. Everything we do it for money, right? It's all easy, straightforward. We do it for money. This is the foundation. This is the backdrop. The communistic model, so it's different. So, but now just we need to also once we understand that we have some unifying factors, systems. So biblical morality, and so we need to think up a model, an idea on the basis of which we can build our own economic model. We don't have such an idea, and I think that today that's the most challenging problem of the Eurasian space. So which over this last several years started to stand out against the general economic forum, because in the conditions of crisis, the essence of difference between law and morality became very salient. Thank you. Dear colleagues, so we are moving in the right direction.